Hey guys, Smith here from Minute Maintenance coming at you with this 2009 Chevy Traverse, still giving us a hard time, still having a hard time breathing, feels like it might be the catalytic converter. Let's see if we can get this thing cleaned from the inside out as opposed to having to cut and replace once again. Stick with me, gotta get some maintenance done. Alright guys, back before us here we have this 2009 Chevy Traverse. Now if you remember, I had an emergency call from a friend of mine at work saying that she had just had a bunch of work done, catalytic converters replaced, O2 sensors, spent almost $6,000, timing chain, all sorts of stuff done to this car. She's at work and all of a sudden it's chugging again, it's not acting right, and it's throwing all sorts of codes. So went out there that day trying to figure out what's going on. It felt like it wasn't breathing, and what I figured out was there was a bunch of oil getting pushed back through the PCV system. I went ahead and got that cleaned out, and that was about 3 weeks ago, and the vehicle had been running fine ever since. The codes had gone away, but now we got codes coming back, and they were for the catalytic converters. All right, guys, so on the 2009 Chevy Traverse, we're throwing codes, and the code we're having is P0420. Okay, that's for the catalytic converter. Now, she had paid to have the catalytic converter replaced, along with all sorts of other stuff on this particular vehicle. She paid over $6,000 on my solid paperwork myself. I spoke with that particular mechanic myself. He did the work. It seems like, based on what I'm finding, he used cheap catalytic converters. Now, why does that matter? Isn't a part a part? Not really. When it comes to catalytic converter, it depends on when you change it. It depends on what else is going on. She was having a severe misfire. Her spark plugs were fouled out. He changed the catalytic converters first, based on what he explained to me, before fixing the misfire. So that can cause the catalytic converters to become dirty and clogged. Alright guys, inside the cab is 2009 Chevy Traverse, and what I have here is my Zurich ZR13 code reader hooked it back up because she's throwing codes again, and we still have the code for the P0420. Now, it was running better after I cleaned out the PCV system of all that oil buildup and carbon buildup inside the system. It was running better, but it's still not running its best, and we're still having this code for the catalytic converter. Now, I know she had the catalytic converters replaced, and I crawled underneath. Some mechanics are notorious for saying they changed a part that they're supposed to, but they didn't actually do it. I crawled underneath, and the catalytic converters do appear to be newer. I mean, you can tell from the coloring on the exhaust what part's new and what part's not. The catalytic converters do appear to be new, but they do not appear to be functioning. I keep having these codes pop up. The engine keeps chugging and running like it can't breathe. That can be from a dirty intake, dirty air coming in on the intake side, or dirty clogged air coming in on the exhaust side, which leads me to believe that we have a clogged catalytic converter. Another way you can test for that is you can actually test pressure. Is there pressure building up around the catalytic converter? You can pull an O2 sensor. You can hook up a special pressure gauge that'll tell you how much pressure is in your exhaust system. If there's more pressure, that's because the exhaust isn't flowing as cleanly. I had her take her vehicle to a local shop that has a good reputation to have them try to diagnose what was going on, and they had the same conclusion I did. Even though the catalytic converters were changed, they were changed with a cheap, off-the-shelf, inexpensive catalytic converter, which tend to not go bad but get dirty with carbon buildup very easily, especially if you don't change out the spark plugs and other things on the engine. Sounds like the catalytic converters was done first before the timing issue was fixed, throwing a lot more carbon, not burning as clearly, clogging up those new catalytic converters. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to clean it out. And how do we do that? Well, handy dandy paint lacquer. So what we have here before us is your standard paint lacquer. And this is a petroleum-based product, and what you can do, actually, catalytic converters, those are just, it's a fancy filter, guys. It's all it is a fancy filter that takes the carbon that the engine creates from burning. It binds with the platinum, the rare earth metals that are inside the catalytic converter, and lets less bad stuff coming out. You can actually clean that by running paint lacquer through your gas tank. Your engine's going to burn that. The paint lacquer is going to clean the catalytic converters. You can also remove the catalytic converters themselves, soak them in laundry detergent, soak them in soap and water to clean out all that carbon. That's something that can actually take place. Catalytic converters, they're not really a rare item. They become dirty and clogged, and they can either be cleaned or they can be replaced to fix that issue. She already had them replaced, but now they're dirty again. So let's go ahead and try to clean the system out. And instead of unbolting it, which is probably the best way, honestly, the best way to make sure they're clean is remove it. But if you can remove it, why not just replace it? What we're going to try to do here is see if this old farm hack of using lacquer thinner to run through your system is going to help us clean our catalytic converters. What we're going to do is dump 1 gallon, just 1 can of this Menards brand Sunnyside lacquer thinner, not paint thinner, lacquer thinner. Okay, alcohol-based, petroleum-based lacquer thinner. We're going to run 1 gallon for a half tank of gas through her system. So what we're gonna do is dump this whole gallon into a half tank of gas into our gas tank, and we're gonna run the engine at higher RPMs for about 30 minutes, about 2,500 to 1,000 RPMs. Let it run through the system, and that should be enough to clean out the catalytic converters so that the vehicle will be running like new again. Alright guys, so what we're gonna do, like I said, we're gonna take 1 gallon of this lacquer thinner, dump it into a half full gas tank, about 6 to 10 gallons worth of gas inside this gas tank, and we're going to run it, and it's going to burn out the system and hopefully clean our catalytic converters. So we got our funnel in there. Let's go ahead and crack this sucker open and see if we can do this with one hand, which we probably can't, so I'm not even going to try. Alright, we got 1 gallon for a half tank of gas mixed together, and that's just the ratio they like to use, 1 gallon for a half tank of gas. And that should be more than enough. We'll go ahead and get this engine started. Now there's 2 ways to do it from here. You can either drive the car at highway speeds, which is probably the best way to do it, honestly the easiest way, and just drive it for a while, 50, 100 miles, just put a good day's worth of driving in. Or you can let it idle at higher RPM. So right now we're at 1,500. We can let it idle for about 25-30 minutes at 2,500 RPMs. That's going to allow the lacquer to get sucked through the system and hopefully clean out our catalytic converter. Now, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of research about this. It's an old trick that's been around for a long time. The catalytic converters, they can be cleaned, guys, and this is just the way to clean it from the inside out. And catalytic converters, about $1,000 to pay to have them changed. That's for one. This particular motor has more than 1 catalytic converter, so why not give it a shot? She already paid to have it done by replacing them before. She doesn't want to pay again, especially not under these current economic prices, so why not give this a shot? I don't blame her. It's not easy to replace catalytic converter depending on where it's at. A lot of catalytic converters nowadays are actually bolted to the exhaust manifold itself, coming right out the engine. It's a tight space to get to. So if we can clean it from the inside out, one, that'll help clean the entire fuel system, but also it'll help clean the catalytic converter. Why not give it a shot so we can breathe a little bit better? Another thing you can do, depending on your state code, whether it's legal or not, and it's not legal anywhere, so I know it's not, is you can remove the catalytic converter. You can actually cut out the honeycomb, cut out the filter, the metal on the inside. But again, that requires removing the catalytic converter. And that's a bit of a hassle. So I figure, why not give this has worked for other people in the past, why not give this a shot on our channel? Because what's the point of minute maintenance here? We're trying to save money, get things done quickly, easily, at low cost, at home. That gallon of lacquer thinner from Menards, that cost me $12, guys. It cost me $12. And now what do I gotta do? I gotta sit in the car and let it run for about 30 minutes. We're about 3 minutes in. So let's stay around 2,000, 2,500 RPMs to get that lacquer thinner just really work through the system. And honestly, this isn't gonna be a one-day video. I'll probably come back to you guys in a week from now to see what the codes are saying, because what I want to do is, after let it run through the system the way we're doing, I'm going to reset the code and see if the code pops back up, guys. That's the only way to really tell. If it pops back up, are we going to have any better performance? Is the engine still going to be chugging, bogging down like it can't breathe? Because we know it's getting fresh air from the inside, but it's not popping out on the outside. Because why? We actually checked. We're not just guessing. Well, it was a pretty good guess, but we also checked by having it taken to a local mechanic who had the ability to check the pressure in the exhaust system, and it had a buildup of pressure, meaning the exhaust wasn't getting through, it was getting bogged down. So let's go ahead and sit here and let this run for a while. And there you go, guys. So that's an old school farm hack, and I live on a farm now, so why not do that? Cleaning the catalytic converter from the inside out. It does work. Does it work every time? It depends on how far gone the catalytic converters are. If you're getting a rattle noise coming from the exhaust, that means the actual internals of the catalytic converter have failed. It's not going to help you there. This is for the catalytic converter, for the filter system inside that's become dirty from excess of carbon due to misfires, due to a bad gasket that's dumping oil into the injector system, into the chamber, so it's actually burning that off, which is causing a lot more carbon buildup to happen on the catalytic converter. It's for those type of situations. Physically, the catalytic converters are fine and they've been replaced, but they were dirty as heck because he changed those before fixing the timing chain and the intake gasket issue that it had. So in theory, the pressure's building up because catalytic converters are clogged. So why not rinse them out? Why not clean them? So I let this run for about 30 minutes at 2,500 RPMs. Otherwise, you can drive it for 100 miles or so at highway speeds to really get that lacquer to burn through the system and get itself to clear out the exhaust. So we're going to reset the codes, and I'll come back to you guys here with an update in a couple of days to see if the vehicle's running any better. Yeah, so it's, guys, as simple as that. If you're having issues with the vehicle, please like, subscribe, drop in the comments below. This is just a simple way. She was fed up with this vehicle. She's gonna get rid of it. I'm like, hey, why not give this a shot? Let's go see if we get this catalytic converter cleaned from the inside out. If not, we can remove it and physically clean it, or we can just replace it again, and hopefully that's what's gonna resolve this issue for her. But that's the conclusion I came to, is catalytic converter was bad. Had a secondary mechanic confirm that as well. So guys, like, subscribe, drop any comments or questions below, and as always, find a minute out of your own day, do some maintenance. We'll catch you next time.